Welcome back to Reliving Retro. This is Season 2, Episode 12. Season 2 finale, guys. We made it.
Yeah.
We have a very special guest on with us today, and I'll allow him to introduce himself. Go ahead, man.
Hey, I'm Bill. I'm the host of A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast. It's an oral history of video games as told through the everyday people who lived it. Myself and a bunch of other people go through different games and systems and eras. Honestly, just talking about games and sharing stories of the games that really shaped us as fans and sometimes shaped us as people. So it's kind of like looking into the heart and soul of games as opposed to those nuts and bolts. And right now, I'm assuming this is coming out soon. The Zelda retrospective is going on or kicking off as of this coming Monday. So if it's next week, then it's already kicked off. And we're going through literally every single Zelda game and era. Got lots of really fun episodes coming up, and it's going to take me through the rest of the year. So if you like Zelda, then my podcast should be at least top 5 on your list. I'm just going to say that. Maybe top 5, maybe top 8.
It should be top 5, even if you don't like Legend of Zelda. One of my favorite parts of your podcast is your retrospective, I guess, with your brother, where you do the bargain bin gaming.
Yeah,
I really like that portion. That's a lot of fun. So
cool,
go back
man.
and listen to it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's fun when I get my brother on. I've had other people on talking about different games. It's Tales from the Bargain Bin. It's like the sideshow of the main podcast, and it's games that you received as a kid that you didn't really ask for from well-meaning grandparents and aunts and uncles who didn't have the list from Santa. They went to the store, saw game for $10, and then you got game. But sometimes they're actually pretty good, and sometimes they're awful. So we kind of just go through those stories, and then they just descend into non sequiturs. That's generally how it kind of works. So.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So this week we played Bart versus the Space Mutants for the NES.
Sure.
And I guess just quickly, Yaiser, have you played this game before this week at all?
No,
not at all. Bill?
Yeah, I actually owned it. This was one of those games my brother received as a kid because he was and is a huge Simpsons fan.
Nice.
So this probably came from my aunt who knew he was a Simpsons fan, got him the game. I've beaten it before as a kid.
Cool.
I did not beat it on this playthrough. I just didn't have time.
Right.
Yeah, but it's one of those I've played through multiple times, especially the first level. We'll talk about it. But so I have a lot of history with this game.
Nice.
And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I had played this game a little bit as a kid. This was actually a Patreon suggestion from my mom, who is a patron of ours, obviously. So we do Patreon episodes every we do 3 every season. So we do one episode 4, episode 8, and episode 12. And if you want your game played quicker, I guess, get on there and $5 a month to support, and you get your game played. So my mom suggested this one, and this isn't the game that I remember the most as a kid. Funny enough, I wasn't allowed to watch Simpsons, but I played all the games and had a ton of Simpsons books when I was a kid. I remember specifically my mom would always read me Bart's Christmas, like Simpsons book.
Yeah.
And I remember that very vividly. And the Simpsons game that I remember the most as a kid actually was Bart versus the World for the NES, and then Bart's Nightmare for the Super Nintendo. Those are the 2 that I remember the most. But I didn't have a whole lot of familiarity, I guess, with this one, but I did kind of know the premise of it, and I remembered playing the first level a little bit. So how long did you play it this week, Yaiser?
Oh, not that long. Maybe an hour, probably a little less even.
Yeah, I got about 2 hours or so in. What about you, Bill?
I got about maybe 45 minutes to an hour, just enough to kind of refresh the memory. Because again, I do have a bit of a history, so
for sure.
Cool.
This game is interesting, I guess, to put it lightly. Bill, do you want to get it started off with the story since you have like kind of the history?
Yeah, so for my story rating, I gave it a 1.5.
Oh.
This game has next to no story, and what it has is kind of ridiculous. The story basically is aliens are invading Springfield,
Mhm.
and they are trying to enslave the planet, and starting with Springfield, I guess. And in order to do so, they have built a weapon, but in order to finish the weapon, they need to fill it or arm it or I don't know, use it as weaponry or energy,
Yeah.
different items. And the conceit is, as Bart, you've seen them come to take over and body snatch basically the denizens of Springfield. You decide to go out on a quest to save the town from these aliens. And the idea is that every level you have to acquire or cover or get rid of certain objects. So the first level, for example, are purple things. We'll talk about that a bit. And everything in the story is just an excuse for a gameplay thing. And
Yeah.
so the story is kind of non-existent and it's kind of ridiculous. And it's barely there. So, it's not offensive, so maybe 1.5 is a little on the strong side, but it's the Simpsons material. Like there's so much there you could have done with the Simpsons, right? And
Yeah,
this is,
Yeah.
not to dominate, but this was like early Simpsons. This was still Eat My Shorts, Bart's the
Yep.
face of everything, on the t-shirts and all the merchandise. So it makes sense that it's Bart focused, but there's so much you could have done even early on with The Simpsons. It didn't have to just be really cheesy, poorly thought out story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
F- Funny, I actually went with the same exact score. I went with a 1.5.
Oh.
And I felt like, there was a story there, but exactly what you were saying was that everything everything about the story was just to adapt the gameplay for the next level, essentially. So for the first level of the game, the aliens apparently need purple colored objects. And so you just have to go around spray painting anything purple, which just seems like you could apply that gameplay mechanic to literally any game of all time. And they just kind of threw The Simpsons on top of it just because let's, let's capitalize on that
Marketing.
Simpsons money, basically.
Yeah, easily.
Essentially is what it is. Because you could change out sprites for it could be Eddie Munster. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
for whatever reason. But it is funny that aliens are taking over, and obviously they have to start with Springfield and not like LA or New York City or something like that. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Right.
Yeah. So this story is certainly silly. I don't know. It's not really something I would even really expect to see in a Simpsons episode either, I guess. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. So I did find it like I don't know. You because you were like maybe I was a little harsh on it at the 1.5, but I gave it a 1 and then I was like, yeah,
Wow.
it's not as bad as Superman 64. Let's bump it up a little bit, Like games games that had no story, I tend to give 1s. So
Mhm.
this did have a story. It's just that it was really silly and that it was all based on what you were about to do in the game, like gameplay wise. Like I don't know. So I gave it a 1.5. Yaiser?
Yeah. I gave it a 2, but I mean, I'm right there with you guys for like most of the same reasons.
Yeah.
Like Bill was saying, there's so much they could have done with Simpsons.
Yep.
Um, and it was so weird the things you had to do for these aliens. Like
Mhm.
level 2, you went to the mall to collect hats. Why do they need?
Hats.
Why do they need hats? I don't know. I didn't really get it. But
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
In level 3, what do you need in level 3, Bill?
So level 3 is the carnival, which is actually a
Mhm.
pretty neat level. We'll talk about gameplay in a bit, but you need balloons.
Okay.
So
the balloons, right?
you'll get a sling in that level. You get a slingshot, so you can slingshot balloons. You collect them. There's little carnival games you can play to get more balloons or coins.
Mm-hmm.
Again, pretty decent conceit. Level 4, you need exit signs because you're in the Natural History Museum. Because evidently Springfield has a Natural History Museum. It's a terrible, terrible level. Then the 5th level is actually interesting, where you need their last ditch attempt to power their weapon is using or getting um, nuclear reactor rods, like nuclear, like I don't know what you call them. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what you
Like
call a
the thing
nuclear
that
reactor.
falls into
Exactly.
suit
Yes.
in the beginning.
Exactly. You have to collect 12 of them and put them back into the reactor. And
That
it's
actually makes
yeah.
sense. I feel like
That-
It's
that
the
that one does.
yes. The
that
the
one makes
fir-
sense.
the first level kind of makes. I think the first level of the game is actually relatively fun, except for other if it weren't for other things, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And then the last levels actually it's very confusing because it's a lot of elevators and stairs and it's a royal pain and it's hard. It's really hard.
Mhm.
But there's some neat ideas. And at spoiler alert, in case you want to finish this game for some weird reason, the last little rod, Maggie is sucking on it. So you bring Maggie up there and she spits it out, and that's the last one that goes in. It's a really
okay.
cute little. It's a very cute
Yeah.
idea.
Mhm. Really good.
So that's how it all kind of shakes out. Just 5 levels, and yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, I had a feeling all of our story scores were going to be pretty low on this one.
Yeah.
It's funny because some NES games don't even have a story, right? Like some of them are just like, okay, stage 1, do things.
Yeah.
And this one actually has like a little cutscene at the beginning, and the text with like even on the level, it's like you must collect all the purple things or hide all the purple things or
Yeah.
in whatever way possible. And so it is kind of there, but it's almost kind of like lazy, I guess, just to kind of support the non-Simpsons like gameplay, I
Yeah.
guess, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's jump over to gameplay. Bill, you can start it off again if you'd like.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Gameplay, I gave it a 2.5. I was tempted to give it a 3. The biggest thing that detracts from the gameplay really is the control. This game controls terribly, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah,
It's
bad.
the game the just to kind of give a quick synopsis, especially in the first level. The first level really isn't platforming heavy, so you don't feel it as much. The second one, which is the mall, where you need to collect hats, is extremely platform heavy. I mean, it is precision heavy. And rather than playing just like a Mario game, that everyone knows how to play,
Mhm.
holding the B button does not make you run faster. B button activates your spray can.
Yeah.
The problem is that in the second level, you don't have a spray can, you have nothing. So your B button is basically almost kind of useless, except if you want a long jump. Your long jump is a B and A at the same time, but your momentum doesn't quite match with what your speed is because in
Yeah.
order to speed up, you have to hold A. You have to jump, keep your thumb on A, move, and then try to do a BA, but you can't because you've released the thumb on the A, and now you've stopped and you just do a small jump. It is baffling why they did that. I don't know why they couldn't just Mario it up. And if they needed to have a situation where Bart used the spray can, which is the first level, could have been something. I don't know. Hold up and B to spray can. I don't know.
Right.
Whatever. Not great, but still better than that.
Yeah, what you're saying is like basically my biggest complaint with it, and it's the running and jumping aspect. And yeah, anybody who's ever played a platformer knows it's hold down B, hit A with the rest of your thumb kind of deal, just for speed and jumping and platforming. And I kept doing that in my playthrough, and I was just like, I'm just like I'm wasting all of my spray. Like it's gone. Because I was not understanding that like B wouldn't do that. And then I look in the manual and it says that just hold A is how you walk faster. It doesn't even say run or sprint. It just says walk faster is hold down A. And then yeah, the long jump is hold A and then press B like at the same time. And I'm like, it's really rough because I mean they're trying their best, I guess, with that what they have, right? They have the 4 directional buttons, and then they have select, start, A and B, and that's really all they have to work with. So I get that it's tough on like their limitations, but like you said, Bill, I feel like they could have done something where because select basically select it scrolls through the items that you have, and then start uses your item. So couldn't they have done something where like you hold select and press B to use an item instead? And then use B as like I don't know. They could have done something else.
Yeah.
But
it was weird. Yeah.
But yeah, did you have anything else to add to gameplay? I kind of cut
Oh
you
well,
off there.
aside from the control, there are some neat ideas. I think that first level is actually really good and interesting. Yes, you're hiding purple things, but there's an array of things to do, requires some critical thinking, a little bit of problem solving. For example, at the very beginning, you'll see a theater that has the times 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. If you wait until your timer goes down to 400 or 200, a kid in a purple shirt comes out that you can just blast with spray paint. That's one of your objectives. Now, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to do that because it gives you more purple things than you really need. So you
Yeah.
can miss a few. You can, and it has some of the most Simpson-y things in the entire game. You can call Mo.
Yeah,
There's
I was
a
gonna
you
mention
call
that.
Mo, and Mo comes out and you can spray paint his shirt. You have the statue of Jebediah Springfield that you can hit the bird with a rocket, and the bird flies away because it's purple. The Quickie Mart there, and the retirement home, and skateboarding. Like all this feels Simpson-y, right? And
Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
so I feel like that first level, all the flaw due to control issues, is actually still pretty fun. Balance of the game though is not, because they just go away from that. You're in a mall, you're at a carnival, and the carnival's pretty neat because again, some gameplay things. You can play a shoot the ducks. You can play a balloon dart throw to get more coins and get or one up or something. So it's kind of neat, but yeah, that first level is pretty good, but I just think the rest of it's just so weak, and it's just, I don't know. And the platforming is just abysmal, and a lot of these levels really require it. Second and the fourth level, yeah, the Natural History Museum is brutal with the platforming. There's a lot there too.
Mhm.
So now's a good time to admit that I didn't even get past the first level of this game. I played it, like I said, for almost 2 hours, could not get past it.
Oh, wow.
Bill, you obviously with the history and you've beaten this game before, how many purple things do you need to be able to fight? It's Nelson, right? At the end?
Yeah, it's Nelson at the end. I think you need 24, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And again, you can
So
get
you
it
need
with
to get that. You need to get that number down to 0, the one that they show
Yes.
on the screen.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, I think I was down to like 7 or 8,
Yeah.
and I just every time I'd go back to try and get something that I missed, I died. And this game
Right.
is, it's not forgiving at all in the sense that you just start over.
Yep.
Like I think
Yeah.
you die twice and that's it, and then you start over.
Yeah, if you have, I think it starts you with 4 lives and you have 2 hits.
Oh, okay, that's what it
And
is. Yeah.
and there's no continues. So if you're on the mall level and you die 4 times on on the terrible candy canes and lollipops that are spinning for some reason over wet cement that you die in, you go right to the beginning. It's over. Again, no
Yeah.
continues, just right back to the first level. And that's when I was like, I have no interest.
Yeah,
No
and there's
interest.
no password system.
Nope. Nothing.
Yes, so it's not even like it's not even like Punch Out or something like that where you can throw in a password to like
Nope.
Mhm.
start where you left off. It's brutal in terms of like like how forgiving it is, and that's what really got me frustrated with the first level, is because I'm like, I don't even know like how to get some of these things, like, and then I started watching some playthroughs and I'm like, oh, okay, like I understand like that kind of. I also thought it was crazy that you had to be like pretty accurate with like the fireworks when like hitting the bird.
Yes.
That
Yep.
I thought it was just gonna be like, oh, firework in this area, it knows what it's supposed
No.
to hit. No, you have to aim it and actually hit the bird. And I missed it though. And the
Arcs.
first time I missed it, I'm like, wait, you have to be accurate? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
And this thing arcs. It's not like a straight shot. I know because one of the shots with the bottle rocket is
Mhm.
that statue of Jebediah Springfield. The idea is that you hit the bird off because the bird is purple.
Yeah.
I know the exact spot to stand. It was muscle memory. It was a 25-year-old memory that was still there. I knew exactly where to stand, and I one shotted it.
Yeah,
that's
I was very proud of myself. Like, I can't remember what I did last week, but I can remember a 25-year-old memory of where to stand to shoo the bird away off of the statue in Bart versus the Space Mutants.
It's funny how things work like that too,
That's
right? Like,
insane. I don't know
yeah.
how.
yeah,
Brains
my
are
wife
weird.
my wife will make fun of me because like she literally like I won't remember like what she told me to get at the grocery store like 10 minutes ago.
Same. Yeah.
But I'll remember like what year like the Jets went a certain like record or something. You know what I mean? Like I like that kind of stuff. Or remember like certain secrets in like Super Mario World or something like that. Like I'll remember that stuff from like 30 years ago. But it's interesting how our minds work. But yeah, I it's funny enough. I gave gameplay a 2.5 also.
Nice.
I was really close to giving it a 3. Just how unforgiving it is kind of knocked it down for me. You know, you want to be able to like want to play the game, and it made me not want to play the game with how unforgiving it is. So that's why I knocked it down from a 3 to a 2.5. But I did think all the different, at least the first level, right? Because that's the only one I played. I did look up some gameplay and stuff like that just to get a kind of idea of like what the next levels are like. But I did feel like some of the ways to like either cover or get rid of like the purple objects was pretty interesting. Sometimes pretty creative, like jumping up on the clothesline to cover up the purple objects with the towels, and like I thought that was pretty cool. Using a a smoke bomb to scare the bird that's in the pet store away.
Cherry bomb, yeah.
Yeah, cherry bomb, that's what it was.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, and it doesn't really tell you that, so you really have to it's trial and error, right? You kind of have to figure out what these things are, and then you have to figure out how to use them to get rid of purple objects, and you buy them in the game. Like you pick up coins and you go into the shops and you can buy the bottle rockets and the cherry bombs, and you can also buy like a wrench you have to buy at one point to open up the fire the fire hydrant. That's what it's called, to take out the wet paint that's on like the awning.
Right.
Yeah, so for that, like I thought the gameplay was pretty fun, but again, I didn't get further into the game to really be able to experience that. A common complaint, because I put something up on Facebook that I'll get to a little bit later, but a common complaint with this game was the way it's set up. A lot of people think this first level should have been one of the later levels because of how long and like kind of hard it is. They think that some of the other levels after it are easier.
Makes sense.
But
yeah, that makes sense.
So they think that probably turned a lot of people away from the game, just not even being able to beat the first level. But I also thought the other Simpsons being to help you out was a cool mechanic, where like if you collect a certain amount of what is it, like you have to jump on the aliens' heads or whatever, right? And if you collect like 6 of them and spell out Maggie, then she'll throw bowling balls at you that you can throw at what's his name there? Nelson. Yeah, there you go. Yep. So I mean, I thought that stuff was pretty cool, but I think it was all held back by the controls and just how unforgiving it was, really.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you, Yaiser?
Seems fair. I actually did give it a 3.
Okay.
I also didn't get past the first level.
Yep.
But I thought the first level was really cool, even though the controls were bad, and I was having a hard time even figuring them out at first. But I, like you were saying, I didn't really get to experience how, I guess, shitty platforming the actual platforming would be with it.
Yeah.
I didn't get to experience that, but I did watch. I watched almost a full playthrough. I saw in the first level it was fun to play, sort of. if I was playing on my phone stupidly, I shouldn't have, but it made it even harder. But I thought the third level, the carnival, it looked pretty fun and cool. So I like how they had the little Ralphs floating around with the balloons that you had to get. Like that was cool. So yeah, I gave it a 3. I gave it the benefit of that. I guess I didn't get to experience how shitty those controls really were. so yeah, I stuck with the 3 there.
Nice. I'll get it started off for visuals, unless Bill, did you have anything else you wanted to add to gameplay?
Oh no, I'm good on gameplay. Yeah, I think we covered it.
As far as visuals go, I think that this was pretty good for the NES. I thought that the sprites, you could obviously tell who all the characters were and stuff like that. And the different levels, I thought, it wasn't like the same regurgitated level over and over again, which I thought was nice. I gave it a 3.5 for visuals. I thought it was pretty good. Bill?
I gave it a 3. Like for a lot of the same reasons you did. It's fine. It's perfectly serviceable NES graphics. Just basically what you said. All the characters are very recognizable. Springfield kind of feels like a Springfield in that first level, but then they also go to very generic. Like the mall is extremely generic. The Natural History Museum, they try to make it fun with different biomes you're walking through, and really it doesn't have much flavor. But when they insert Simpsons stuff in there, it works for the most part. And so I guess the graphics are just kind of standard. They feel just fine. So 3 is kind of where I landed.
That's fair. Yaiser?
Very fair. I was at a 3 also. Yeah, I thought it definitely looked pretty good for NES. I thought, pretty cool with the X-ray vision. I mean, you could turn everything negative with your X-ray goggles. I thought that was pretty neat. And all the sprites were cool, but like all the little jumpy aliens, they all looked exactly the same, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't anything crazy, but it was decent,
Yeah, I think it's fair.
3 worthy.
Bill, since again, I'm going to defer to your experience here. Sound. How you
Sound,
feeling?
I gave it a 1.5.
Okay.
I think the sound in this game it's sparse, but boy, is there no variety. That first level, I hope you like the Simpsons theme song because oh boy,
That's
I do.
exactly what I was
it,
going to say.
it doesn't
I do,
even.
though.
It doesn't. It starts at the beginning. It continues into the cutscene, and it just doesn't even stop going into the actual gameplay. It just
Nope.
keeps on going. I think the second and fourth levels have different themes. I think.
Mhm.
I don't fully remember. I
They
did look
do,
at a
yeah.
few.
Yeah.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
None of them are great. I mean, obviously the Simpsons theme is fantastic. You know, it's classic. It's wonderful. But a little variety would have been nice. And the rest of the sound effects, the springing of the jump is very annoying after 100 times you hearing it. And then there's really nothing else to speak of. Yeah, it's just it was very lackluster, very low effort, honestly. So I gave it a 1.5. It's one of the more disappointing things in the game.
Yeah, as far as sound bites go, I mean, there aren't many, right? Bart says a kind of very muffled "eat my shorts" and a cool man, I
Mhm.
think, every once in a while. Um, when I was playing through this game, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! They didn't add any other sounds they didn't add any other songs other than the Simpsons intro theme." I love the Simpsons theme. I think it's one of the better, more well-known TV themes of all time.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I love the song Master of Puppets by Metallica, but if Metallica came out with an 8-song album and it was just Master of Puppets for 8 songs, I'm like, it's not a great
No,
album. It's
no,
a great
Probably not, right?
it's a
no,
great song, but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I initially gave it a 1, but
Ooh.
then when
Wow.
when I found out that there were other songs, so when I watched other gameplay and found out that there were other songs, I was like, okay, I'll bump it up to a 2 because I didn't think that it was that bad. But the repeating of the same Sims, if you can't beat that level on your first try, you're gonna pull your hair out, I think.
It's brutal.
Yes. So I gave it a 2. Yaiser?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2 as well.
Okay.
I did notice the other songs too, watching the playthrough, just like you did. But
Yeah.
again, they were just bland and not fun or great.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah, and they weren't terrible, but like just repetitive as fuck, you know.
Yeah, it's a far cry from Castlevania soundtrack. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Watched a guy the other day playing the Castlevania theme on his fucking piano. It sounded so dope.
Yeah, dude, that music's incredible. I
Oh.
could talk for a whole podcast just about Castlevania music.
You
Honestly.
should. I think that'd be great. It's incredible. Yeah.
Right. All right, I'll kick it off with aged here. Controls are so bad in this one, and I think that's the major contributing factor to aged. And I got it pretty low here. I'd say a 2. I think it looks pretty good for the time, so that kept it from being like a 1.5. But the controls are so bad that it really kind of knocked it down for me. So I ended up landing on a 2 for how well this game aged. Bill?
I landed on a 2 as well for aged. Again, with when it comes to age of a game, is it as bad as it was 25 years ago, 1991. I
Right.
think it never was great. I think the big age on it has to do with the Simpsons itself, because this is representing very early Simpsons,
Yeah.
and very early Simpsons hasn't aged wonderfully. Again, I'm not an aficionado, but I really think that the series kind of hit its stride in like that second or third season, and then it kind of just went up and up from there. And then, of course, as we all know, it's nowhere near where it was now. But it's just so since that era of Bart Simpson, Eat My Shorts, Cool Man, everything being about Bart, the miscreants, and just how merchandisey this feels.
Yeah.
Of its time, it wasn't that merchandisey. That's what The Simpsons was. It was all about Bart and his antics.
Mhm.
And nowadays, The Simpsons, of course, has just grown to be this much more massive world. And you could argue more interesting, but certainly not just Eat My Shorts and Bartman and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's what lends it to its age most of all. And the blandness of it doesn't help either. So that's where I put it as a 2.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's funny though. You do make that really good point about early Simpsons being all about Bart, and it kind of just draws the comparison to me with South Park and how early South Park was really all about Cartman.
Yep.
And now, like
Yep.
like now, South Park has developed so much that like Randy is this main character
the
now.
best character.
He's hilarious, and the fact that like it took them so long to give him, main storylines. I almost feel like it was kind of the same way with Homer. Like I wasn't a huge into Simpsons, but I think that I think it's pretty funny that the comparison is there, at least for, I mean, I don't know if it's like that for all animated shows, but those two in particular definitely have that going on.
Yeah.
I
see that.
What about you for age, Yaiser?
Yeah, I gave it a 2 as well. So I'm glad that you guys, the controls are as bad as it felt on my phone. You guys were playing it because the whole time I was like, man, I don't know, I probably should play this on my computer, but this fucking sucks on my phone. But they're actually that bad. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. I don't feel so bad about playing on my phone anymore. But yeah, it's really kind of hindered it with the controls there.
I think so.
So
makes sense.
What are you gonna do?
Now I'm gonna tell you what we got going on for our final scores here.
Okay, cool.
Bill came in at the lowest at a 2.1. I came in the middle at 2.3, and Yaiser was the highest at a 2.4.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah,
we were right there. I mean, we were as I was going through it, I was doing basic math in my head. I'm like,
Yep.
we are close on this. So
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like we all played it together.
It is. Yeah, it seems like we all played within the last like 48 hours, probably. I'm guessing. I don't know. That's what I did. And fresh in our minds. Yeah, this is it. Man, the Simpsons, and it's a shame that they couldn't figure out the Simpsons. I don't think they really, I don't. Bart versus the World, I don't remember fondly. My cousin who had it, and I played it and thought it was fine. Then I kind of fell out of Simpsons games because I personally fell out of the Simpsons. Who knew the best Simpsons game would be a beat 'em up in the arcade where you pilot Marge and smack people with a with a vacuum cleaner.
Debatable, I think. I don't know. Hit and Run's very good.
I heard Hit and Run's good. Yeah,
Have
I've
you
never
played
played it. No, I never have. I was gonna say.
I might bring you back for that one. That one should be a lot of fun.
You just triggered a memory I didn't think I even had with bringing up the Simpsons fighting game in the arcade.
Oh yeah,
I forgot all about that game until you said Marge beating people with a vacuum.
That's it. And it's not and I'll be honest with you, it's a perfectly fine beat 'em up. It just has so much Simpsons flavor. It is just like slathered in Simpsons. So if you like the Simpsons, that game is just a treat because there's so many references. But again, you're forward, well, I guess 5 years now, and the Simpsons have grown, and there's Sideshow Bob, and there's Krusty, and all that sort of thing. So you have more to work with.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like a game that we kind of reviewed pretty recently, Turtles in Time, right? Like where it's it's very Ninja Turtles. It's got all the animating, all the animated series like references and stuff like that. All the characters from it. It's even got a couple extra characters if you play the SNES version. As far as the actual gameplay and like beat 'em up goes, there's no like special power-ups or anything like that. Like you just kind of go around and beat people up as turtles. But if you love the Ninja Turtles, you love that game.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, my son, I'm trying to get him into games a bit more and trying to find things he'll enjoy. And I got him on Shredder's Revenge, which of course came out.
I haven't played it yet.
Oh, he loves it. And we play it together, co-op, right? So we kind of sat in the couch. And I do most of the work, but he, this morning actually, was like, hey, Daddy, can I go play Shredder's Revenge? And I'm like, absolutely, give it a shot. And I didn't hear any screams of frustration, so that must have went okay.
That's good.
It's interesting how with licensed games like this, you have to feed a few people. You have to feed the fans and you have to feed the players.
Right.
And I think at this era of games, there weren't as many players, I don't think, as they thought. So they were trying too hard to. They didn't service either, which I think is weird. And if you read up on the history of this game, this was very rushed out. The publisher tried to get the developers to finish by Christmas. They couldn't finish it by holiday, so they fired a bunch of people. Somebody else came in. So this was a real rush job to begin with. So,
Yeah.
and that would explain probably a lot of the flaws and actually lack of polish, which really what it is. There's some bones here of a game, but this definitely feels more like a cash grab, or hey, Bartman is selling like crazy, in the mall, so we need a video game to capitalize this, in time for Christmas, right? And sure enough, that's exactly what this was, and it feels like it. So
This was a very common theme throughout like the late 80s rather.
80s, huh?
The late 80s and the early 90s. I remember games like Jurassic Park coming out for like the Super Nintendo, and that was just full on cash grab, take advantage of the name, and the game suffers for it poorly. People are going out there buying like $60 games, and they get
shit.
Yeah. For lack of a better word, yeah.
Yeah, $60. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I was just kind of had this thought, and yeah, sir, I'm sorry. I feel like because I'm on the right side here, I'm like bouncing over, so I apologize.
Oh, no, you're good.
No, you're fine.
It's back in those days, people made these licensed games to make money. That
Mhm.
was the whole goal, right? Cash grab, like you were saying, just cash grab, make some money, and get out of there. Now people are making these games because they love the properties.
Right.
So that's why you'll get like your newer Guardians games, which are great, or your Spider-Man games, which are great, or even the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Shredder's Revenge is clearly made by people who love Turtles in Time, because it's just really Turtles in Time and
Right.
with a few additions. But so that's what's nice about this era, is because I think people now who grew up with those properties are going to make games that really honor those shows and honor those cartoons and honor those properties. So I think we're in a good era with that. Yeah.
I think it's funny that you kind of just naturally brought up Shredder's Revenge, because I was going to ask you a question. I had written it down here. I was going to ask you a question based on other Simpsons games that you've played, and I figured we would eventually get to the Simpsons arcade game, which again you already brought up. So my question was going to be, do you think that they'll make another Simpsons beat 'em up and do something kind of like Shredder's Revenge, where they bring in the actual voice actors to voice act the characters, and kind of do something like that with the Simpsons? Because I think maybe capitalizing off of how well received Shredder's Revenge was, maybe they could do something very similar with the Simpsons.
They could, if they want to do another version of that arcade beat 'em up, I think you absolutely could. I would like to see, and I hate saying this because I think we've had enough of these type of games, but that's just me being old and with having no time. I'd love to see like a curated open world type of Simpsons game where you could explore Springfield and the outskirts, and then drive to the nuclear power plants, and drive to a carnival with Krusty, or the TV station, and that I think that'd be really neat, because again, there's so much in that world that you could do. The reason I say curated is because I think open world games, not to get onto a big tangent, but they've gotten too big. Let's be honest. I'm old. I have no time for 100-hour Horizon Forbidden West. I just don't. I love it, but I just don't.
Something like a Fractured Butthole or something.
Yeah. So give me like a good 30 to 40 hour curated tight experience that tells a Simpsons story.
Yeah.
I think would be really neat, and you can have all the fan service you want, and maybe just tell a cool long form Simpsons story via a game. I think would actually be really cool, because there's so much material there. It's ripe for that.
Yeah, Yaiser, I thought it was funny that you brought up Fractured Butthole, because I was going to say like something not necessarily that has to be like an RPG, but like the South Park games. But the South Park games did a very, very good job of combining great gameplay with fan service that it felt like we were watching a South Park episode. Like we were just playing a part of the South Park episode. And I think that the fact that they nailed that was really really impressive. Not that this is a South Park review, but I mean,
Right. Well, but you
It's
can
a
make
great
a lot of. You can definitely make. Excuse me. And we already made a lot of parallels between South Park and Simpsons, even
Yeah.
just in the way it hit popular media and
Mhm.
exploded into popular culture. I mean, they basically did the same thing, and they're still
Yeah.
both going strong. They still have these incredibly long runs,
Yeah. I
and
mean, they even
they still have
referenced
their
it.
fans.
They even referenced it in South Park with that one episode
They
with
see. There you go.
General Chaos and or Professor Chaos and General Desiree.
yeah,
Simpsons dead it. Simpsons dead it.
that's funny stuff.
So good. Yeah.
Love it.
I wish I was more of a fan of like the Simpsons, like animated, like the actual series.
Mm.
I never really watched it. Like I said, I've seen episodes here and there. I used to watch like the Halloween episodes because those were always huge.
Yes.
But other than that, I didn't watch a ton of it. I actually, and I don't know, I might get a lot of hate for saying this, but I think Futurama is the better
Oh.
show between the two.
Futurama. I mean, Futurama is
It's just
wonderful. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a better show, I think, and because it didn't overstay its welcome.
yeah,
The
it's
Simpsons,
way more digestible.
yeah, it has long overstayed its welcome. My
Mhm.
brother is a huge Simpsons fan,
Yeah.
and every once in a while I'll ask him, "Oh, hey Bobby, by the way," who's on, often on Tales from the Bargain Bin.
Yeah.
"Hey Bobby, you still watching the Simpsons?" He goes, "Yep, every week." I go, "Is it good?" And he goes, "Nope, not at all." And then I go,
Well,
"Why? Then why are you continuing to watch it?" He's like, "I've watched it this long. I'm gonna see it out through the end." And
yeah.
so he's literally just watching. He's just marking time until somebody says, "We're canceling this show. Finally, let's put the bow on it."
Will Fox ever
Um,
cancel that show?
I don't know at this.
probably not, man.
I
What
mean, it
season are
must
they
go.
on? 29?
I know
It's
it's
gotta be
way
over
past
30.
that. That
Yeah,
Is it
gotta be
past
over
that?
30. Yeah.
Started
Oh,
in
it came out what,
89.
89?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
so it's as
Yeah.
old as me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 33?
Yes,
34,
33
something like
seasons,
that?
right?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Plus whatever they did on the Tracy Ullman show. That's where it started, right?
Yep.
Did it? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
We
Plus they
are.
have
We
a
are.
plus
Yeah.
they have a movie.
Yeah.
There is a movie. Yep. I don't remember seeing it. I think my brother saw it and said it was fine.
I've
Yeah,
seen
we
it a
are
couple
on
times.
You've seen it? Yeah.
season 34 just started.
Amazing.
34.
New episode tomorrow. One Angry Lisa. In case you want to check it out.
Simpsons is older than Jesus was.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
You see the Jesus.
Is that like a well-known fact?
Jesus died at age 34.
I don't know, but
I know that because of Nas.
Like the rapper?
Yeah.
Okay. So many off the mark references here. I don't
we
know
went
where
from
we go
South
here.
Park to Jesus. I think we've really run the gambit.
Yeah.
Here.
We did it.
I think so. That was awesome.
I don't know who has that bingo card, but congrats.
I know.
Jeez,
You won
wow,
if you
yeah.
did. So
Yeah.
congrats.
All right, let's continue the seamless transitions here into
Yes.
our game that we're playing next week. All right.
Is that getting longer?
It seems like it gets longer every single time we do it. I'm gonna be honest. I really have no idea. All right, so this is the fun part for me. I know the game. You guys don't, which is great. Bill, I like to just kind of describe this game as vaguely as possible and see if the guest can guess it, because why not play a game with it? All right. This is a single player RPG for the PlayStation 1, developed by Konami and released in 1999.
Konami.
Mhm.
Single player RPG, Konami, 1999, PlayStation 1. I know very little about the PS1, by the way. I did not have one as a kid and never really got back into Sony. That was kind of my window, and I wasn't playing games, so I'm probably not going to know this. Is Shining Force
I believe
PlayStation
Shining
1?
Force is a Sega
Dreamcast.
Saturn game,
Oh, okay. So
or maybe Dreamcast too. I don't know.
I don't know. All right. Well, that was going to be my guess.
Suikoden 2.
Say that again.
Suikoden.
Suikoden 2.
Okay.
Suikoden.
Yeah.
All right.
I've never played it. It's regarded as one of the best RPGs of all time.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to try it out. As I haven't played a ton of RPGs. My favorite RPG is Earthbound for the Super Nintendo.
Yep.
I've played Super Mario RPG. I think that's very, very
I
good.
love that game.
I've played Final Fantasy VII. So I've played a lot of like the mainstream RPGs. I haven't gotten a Chrono Trigger yet. One of the reasons why we started the show. We'll get to it eventually.
Gotta do it. God,
Yeah.
you gotta do it.
We're gonna need more than 2 weeks.
For Chrono
You
Trigger?
will need.
Yeah.
Actually, you'd be
Yeah.
surprised if you dedicate like a weekend to Chrono Trigger. You can get through it in 20 hours. Chrono Trigger is
really?
not crazy long. No, I don't think.
Yeah,
I mean,
on
but
the,
I've played through it multiple times, so I mean, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm
you-
biased, but
Probably know
would
where
you
to
say
go.
it's one of your favorite games?
yeah, it's up there. I think Final Fantasy VI is. I enjoy that game more. I think it's just. I don't want to get into a conversation, but I mean, I can, but I think Final Fantasy VI is definitely, I think, better for me. But nuts and bolts, it's hard to argue with Chrono Trigger. But Chrono Trigger is a very light RPG. It's very light on the RPG elements. I would say it's almost borders on basic. However, it makes it very accessible and very fun to play and just kind of enjoy the narrative and enjoy the conceit of it. It's a wonderful game. I mean, there's some moments in Chrono Trigger that are all-time greats. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the website howlongtobeat.com, again, make sure you write that in correctly. Chrono Trigger is listed at 23 hours to complete
Yeah.
the main story,
Oh, that's not bad.
and
Yeah.
Suikoden 2 is 33 and a half hours.
see,
Okay, gotcha.
It's a little bit longer.
What about like? There's multiple different endings, right? Depending on when you
True.
beat the last boss.
True, right? I believe
I
I've
wonder
heard
what-
that there are
is there
different endings.
Completion.
yeah, Chrono
time on there?
Trigger. Yeah, Chrono Trigger has 10 different endings, but a lot of them are kind of jokey and
Oh,
honestly, in my opinion, not really worth the extra tax. Some of them are really cool. A few of them are kind of just jokey,
yeah.
endings.
I never
Like-
actually beat it. I fucked up last time when I got the closest. I saved state at a spot where I couldn't go back from fighting the final boss, and I was not prepared to fight the final boss.
That's exactly what I did in Final Fantasy VII. I got to the cave where you can fight Sephiroth,
Yeah.
and I was not ready. I was not prepared,
Yeah.
and I'm just kind of stuck in this limbo now where I'm there. I can fight him,
Yeah, I got there.
yeah, and I just die every time because I was not ready. I should.
Chrono Trigger's a treat. I really think you'll enjoy Chrono Trigger. It's
Oh, I love
again,
it.
it's not a crazy hardcore RPG where you got to learn a ton of systems.
Mhm.
It's very straightforward as far as mechanics go, but it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. So I think it's a treat.
That's actually how I feel about Evolution for the Dreamcast. Have you ever played that one?
No, I haven't.
That it's very simple, but it's a really fun RPG to kind of just, it's shorter too. But that one's pretty fun. That's a good one. I actually played through our Evolution and Evolution 2 for the Dreamcast. And you can actually get both of them on one game for the GameCube called Evolution Worlds.
Very cool.
Cool.
So if you want to check that game out. Actually, it's your turn now, Bill, to kind of shoot us a game suggestion for us to put on
Oh yeah, yeah.
our
Oh.
list. Yeah. So anything
Wow.
pre Wii, PS3, Xbox 360 gen, and yeah. So I mean, you could throw really anything at us earlier than that.
All right. Well, that's interesting because let me. This is sprung upon me. And there's so many things I'd want to play. I'm gonna give you guys good game. I'm not gonna make.
Okay.
I'm not gonna listen. All right. Two appearances in a row. Bad game. I feel like I gotta owe you guys one. Oh man, one keeps popping up in my head because it's one of my favorites. And I'll do that. It's one of my favorites. It's quick, which I know for podcasters that helps. Trust me, I
Mhm.
feel
It
you.
does.
I feel your pain sometimes with these things. So I'm gonna go Portal.
Okay.
Oh.
Is Portal
ha-
pre Xbox 360?
Ooh, I don't know.
Is
I
360.
think it's is it
Did
is
Did it come out
Oh.
for Xbox or no?
I think so. I think it's
Oh, okay.
360.
No, I think it is 360. So never mind then. Sorry.
It's funny. I've never played it. I really want to play it.
Oh, dang it. So
Should we
you're
just
right.
should we expand?
Well, hang on. Let's see now.
Yeah,
We
fuck
can
it,
we
it's
have the
open
power to
house,
internet
right?
on our hands. Hang on. So let's see what's when because Portal initially came out on the PC, I think. Was it initially a PC game?
Oh.
Was it a
Are we about to find a loophole?
Oh, hang on. Say, so back up.
I was gonna
My
say,
brain
what
is
year
not
did it
working.
come out?
My brain's not working. So Portal came out on the orange box, which was Half-Life 2,
Team Fortress.
Team Fortress 2,
Yeah.
something else, and Portal. So we're gonna look up orange box. All right, here we go. The orange box came out. Drum roll, please, in 2007.
Ooh,
That's
we graduated high
And
school that year.
it came out
15
on
years ago.
So it came out on 360. So
Okay.
if that
You know what?
doesn't count,
I'm gonna
Alright.
put it in there anyway. But if you have a retro game for us,
I
to
can do a
do.
retro game. I have no problem with that. I don't know if I have a. Let me think.
still 15 years ago.
It is 15
I
years
think
ago.
like classic cars are considered 15 years old, aren't they?
I mean,
Should
I don't
we-
know if I would call Portal retro, but they have done a re-release of it on Switch and stuff, and re-release something that's as new.
Did they re-release it on the Switch?
Oh yeah,
I
it's
might
on the
pick
Switch.
that up because
Portal
I've really
1 and
wanted to
2.
play. I've been
Both of
wanting to
them.
play Portal. I've heard it's really, really good.
Yeah, I
It's
played like a tiny bit of
glorious.
it.
It's glorious. It is chef kiss. It's almost perfect.
It's one
I
of
would say
those
the
things
first one
that
is almost
like
perfect.
as a kid in
Wow.
high school, I saw screenshots for that game and I was just like, I don't get it. But like, how can you get that game through just screenshots, I guess, right?
Yeah.
You really can. You
Yeah.
have to engage. Once you understand what portals do and how it works,
Yeah.
you feel like a genius. It's one of those beautiful puzzle games where the puzzles are just challenging enough where you really have to think. And
Yep.
once you figure it out, you feel like a genius beyond compare. And it's so satisfying. It's just
That's
I,
fun.
I
Awesome.
love meeting people who've never played Portal. It's just like, have you ever had chocolate? Have you had chocolate? Like, it's that kind of person.
What's
I
that?
see.
All right, so let me give you I'm gonna think of a retro one. Chat
I
about
have
Portal
had
for a second. What I
chocolate.
think.
I have had chocolate,
I
but
don't know what it is.
I'm in the minority with saying I think chocolate's very overrated.
Mm.
But also if I have a little bit of chocolate, my stomach gets super messed up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. If I have a lot of it anyway.
Oh,
All right,
But why would you
got a
eat a lot
retro.
of it? All right.
I got a retro one for you. Okay,
Cool.
so play Portal on your own. Star Tropics.
Star Tropics.
what
Okay.
is that?
For the NES.
Yep.
I know
Star
of
Tropics.
that game. I've never played it.
Really curious what you guys think.
Is it an RPG?
Nope.
What is
It's
it?
like the closest I would say to Star Tropics. It's a very simple but extraordinarily charming, almost like a Zelda-like.
Okay.
Where you kind of traverse an open overworld and then you go into these different areas and you control your character like you would Zelda. And people love this game. I like it. I don't love it. I don't love it I don't love it as much as others do. So I'm very curious what you guys come away with playing
right.
Star Tropics.
Okay.
Again, this is a game that is literally beloved. So
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. Honestly, I
Yeah.
just never got around to playing it for the NES.
it's adorable, it's charming, has tons of flavor. I don't love it mechanically, but others do. So I'm just curious to see what y'all think. It's definitely a game you really should play, and it's a quick one. You can get through that in a couple hours.
Cool.
Again,
Very cool.
podcaster friendly. That's kind of what I was hoping for you guys.
Yeah,
Cool. Thank you.
appreciate that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
That's why for these longer games we kind of do the 2-week. So our next episode. So while we're playing Suikoden 2 for 2 weeks, our next episode is going to be a recap episode of season 2 where we rank the 12 games that we've played
Mhm.
this season. So just to kind of also put an episode out every week, but also give us a breather so we can just enjoy an RPG for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because you can't really play an RPG in 1 week, you know.
Nah, it's
Wow.
really challenging.
Yeah, and any game over 20 hours is kind of like, even if it's not an RPG, but a game that's going to take 20 hours to kind of beat, and not necessarily that you have to beat all these games, but you want to be able to play a good majority of it before you get on and actually rate it, right?
Yeah, especially if you're going to evaluate story. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't grade a book if you haven't only read half of it, right? Like,
right, exactly.
yeah, it's hard. Gameplay is one thing, but story you definitely I think have to. And so yeah, Suikoden 2 should be good.
Yeah, appreciate that. Really quickly, I just want to ask everybody: would we relive Bart versus the Space Mutants? I'm gonna go ahead and say, no, you don't have to.
Nah.
No, I don't think so either. I think I think that era is past. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna say no. I think you can
Yeah.
leave it alone.
That's fair.
And on Facebook, I got a couple reviews, so I'm just gonna. Mark from Facebook said 4 out of 5 if they had put the first level later in the game. 2 out of 5 since they put the first level first. Jesse said great box art. Everything goes downhill after that. Michael said the museum level is an absolute joke. That being said, taking this game down is incredibly satisfying. What else do we got here? Luke says controls let it down. No saves and the story makes absolutely no sense. Why are aliens collecting hats? What are we talking about?
Yeah.
7-year-old me never beat it. Michael said it's very nostalgic for me, but very, very hard. Never even got past the first level.
Oh,
yeah. Matt said never beat this game before. It always was very hard. Tim said super exciting renting it as a kid for the weekend. Got it home, found out that it was absolute garbage. Pretty upsetting. Jeremy said 5 out of 5 for me. Absolutely love this game. Steve said way too damn difficult. So
wow.
A lot of the same kind of, very difficult. The first stage, never gotten past that one. Like even kids playing it for years, I guess, never really getting past it.
Wow.
So one more. Adrian said remembering it being quite the learning curve at first, but became pretty fun afterwards. I remember beating it a few times.
Oh wow.
So
yeah, and I think a lot of that too. If you're a kid, it becomes a situation where this is my game. This is my game for the next year, so I better get good at it because there's not much else coming unless I go rent something.
True.
So I think that was kind of part of it for us too. And again, my brother was such a huge Simpsons fan, and I think at the time everyone was a Simpsons fan. Again, that Simpsons zeitgeist at that time, it was pretty unavoidable.
Yeah.
I play it. I beat it as a kid. I don't know if I used Game Genie or not. Maybe I did. So I maybe don't have that much gamer cred, but yeah. So I can see why somebody would really like it. 5 out of 5 though. I'd love to hear why that person 5 out of 5 likes this, because
I mean, because
that's a little hard for me to say.
If you're giving it a 5 out of 5, then what are you giving Super Mario 3? Yeah, I mean, like an 11 out of 5.
Yep.
When I was a kid, I always had my go-tos whenever I rented something that wasn't great. So I always had Super Mario Bros. 3 to come back to. I always had, ironically enough, TMNT, the original one, even though that one a lot of people consider pretty bad, but I loved that game as a kid. And Maniac Mansion for the NES were like my 3 like go-tos. Nice. So I absolutely love those 3. Bill, you've played Maniac Mansion?
Oh, I've recorded 2 podcasts on it actually. Very recently I have a Maniac Mansion Tales from the Bargain Bin episode, because my brother was very into point and click adventures. He actually likes the Sierra ones, which is, I don't know why. I guess he's a masochist. I don't understand how you can play those games.
Yeah.
And I did for a podcast called Magecast a year and a half ago at this point. We spent 2 hours talking about Maniac Mansion.
Nice.
Just
it's
diving
such a good game.
Deep. I adore Maniac Mansion. I will say that the music for Maniac Mansion is one of the best soundtracks on the NES. Full stop, bar none. There are maybe a few better, but not many.
So good. It's funny though. I love the music to that game, but I also end up turning it off a lot of times just because it gets very repetitive.
It can. Yes.
If you play as the same character the entire time, because each character has their own theme. But yeah. Anyway, this isn't Maniac Mansion, but maybe we'll get into that at some point, Bill. If you love the game, we might bring you back for that one, because that one.
Man, do I love that game? So many opinions.
Yeah.
I feel like we spent more time talking about other games this episode than Simpsons.
It can happen. It can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, like we said, like you rent Bart versus the Space Mutants, you might end up playing Super Mario 3 that entire time. Who knows?
Yeah.
You might go back to what you love.
And if you can't get past the first level, there's not a lot to draw from, unfortunately. And again, no shame if you can't, because some of those puzzles are really strange.
Right.
Unless you're that psycho that gave it 5 out of 5.
Fair.
You mean beloved listener?
Beloved
listener.
Beloved
gave it a 5
psychotic,
out of 5.
Beloved psychotic listener.
Hey,
mental state aside,
I'm
it's
not
okay.
saying I'm not a psycho.
We're all a little crazy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Bill, you want to tell everybody where they can find you one last time?
Yes, absolutely. A Gamer Looks at 40. Go to Twitter. Gamer Looks at 40. I also have a Facebook page and an Instagram. But Twitter is where I'm usually we try to post every day or so. That's where I hang out. And if you enjoy hearing stories of video games told by the people who live them, and I always like to think of it as like a campfire or a
Yep.
hang where people are just telling stories. And if you have a story about a game that impacted you as a kid, or you have fond memories about, or I don't know, just feel like you have a story that you'd like to tell on a podcast for people to hear, please reach out to me. My DMs are open on Twitter at a gamer looks at 4040, or you can email me at a gamer looks at 4040 at gmail.com. Either way, reach out. I'd love to have you on the show.
Sounds good.
And
Very
you
cool.
guys too. You haven't been on the show yet, and this is a travesty.
Yeah, right?
It's all good.
You have an open invitation.
I definitely want to get on
Cool.
there at some point, and I don't know for what game necessarily,
Yeah.
but that'll be
Yeah. Well,
It'll
I'm
be fun,
doing the Zelda retrospective. I'm still interviewing for that. So
Mhm.
if you have strong opinions on a Zelda game, kind of like maybe
Okay.
Ocarina and Forward at this point, pretty much full up on those other ones, the early ones. But yeah,
Really,
man. And yeah,
really the only Zelda game that I've played like a good amount of was Link to the Past, and just did it for the podcast.
just did it.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm unfortunately not very well versed in the Zelda universe.
Yeah. I
We're
think
gonna be going through a lot of series, so yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
be checking out those for sure.
that one and Link's Awakening, I think the other ones I played all the way through.
Link's
I-
Awakening, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a Game Boy Advance game, and they remade it for the Switch.
It was a game or actual Game Boy game.
Yeah.
Link's
Oh.
Awakening, original Game Boy. Yeah, there was the original Game Boy, and then for the Game Boy Color, there's Link's Awakening DX, which is the
Oh, gotcha.
definitive version. And then, of course, they remade it for the Switch a couple years back.
Yeah, that's the one I
If
played.
you're gonna play it, I would recommend trying to find the DX version, the Game Boy version. It just has a very authentic feel. I think the Switch version is very, very good.
Yeah, I
It
loved
doesn't
it.
quite have the charm, I think, of the
Mhm.
original, and kind of the wonder too, where they basically made Link to the Past on the Game Boy. I mean, because it's Link to the Past sprites, it's it's
Yeah,
it's
it looks very
obviously a
similar.
lot smaller and more tight, but it's got one of my favorite stories in Zelda.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think. Yeah. So no, Zelda's Awakening is wonderful. And
It's actually pretty amazing that they were able to do that later on in the Game Boy's lifespan, is to make
Yeah.
like Nintendo sprites on the Game Boy.
Mhm.
It's pretty crazy because they did that with like Super Mario Land 2 also, where it just looked like Super Mario World on the
yeah,
Game Boy.
just Mario World. Yep, exactly.
But all right, I think that's it for us for this week. Next week we're gonna have our season 2 recap, where we rank our 12 games that we played for this season. That should be pretty interesting. I have really no idea what my top game is. You think you know, right?
Maybe.
All right, well we'll figure it out in the next couple the
Yeah.
next week or so.
I gotta look at them all next to each other, you know?
Yeah, I hear that. And for the next 2 weeks, we will be playing Suikoden 2, and we have Ryan from Retro Game Brews joining us for that episode. So
Oh,
pretty excited to have him back.
nice.
And yeah, so we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Please go check out Bill and his podcast because it's amazing.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. Peace.
See you later.